Yes, here we are. I'm pressing all the buttons and trying to get things to work. And I guess we're all working and you can hear me and life is good. And hello, everyone. It's truly wonderful to be here as we started into 2025. Happy New Year to all of you who did not say that to yet. It was a quiet time for me, actually, and a little space to ponder the infinite, which is what we all need. Anyway, welcome to Tea with G, which is my little version of satsang, which is a communion with yourself, kind of a space we give to ourselves to be able to, withdraw. Right now, just do that. Just make up your mind, set an intention. You're just going to withdraw from whatever's going on in your life currently, whatever's bugging you, whatever problems happen to be there, whatever things, whatever appears to really need your attention. Just make a choice. Since you've come here, you've allocated a certain amount of time from your Sunday, and unless you're way on the other side of the world in your Monday morning, to listen, to be present, to thoroughly imbibe whatever it is you hear that is of value to you. So turn off notifications. Really make this a space for you. This is you can simply drop all your engagement with everything else going on for a while. It's amazing that we can do this, but we can. Often the momentum of the events of life is so overwhelming and feels so irresistible that we don't think it's possible. And the moment you try to take a moment for yourself, take a little break, the wheels are still turning. So it really is a practice, that requires first off, realizing you can do it. Secondly, realizing you need to do it. And then thirdly, just doing it over and over and over again. This is the nature of the whole way the human mechanism works. It gets into patterns and wants to stay there. We all feel that, it's the momentum. You roll a rock down the hill and it wants to keep going. It's just going to keep going. So it's a real choice, a choice that gets implemented over and over again to just take the opportunity whenever you get it to just stop for a second and separate yourself from all of the things that are going on, to give yourself a bit of space. Don't worry, it's all going to be there when you come back. It's not going to get impatient with you and just leave. It's going to be there. Right? Like leaving your shoes outside of a church or a mandir or something. They're still there when you go out. Nobody wants your shoes. Nobody wants your stuff. Nobody wants your baggage. So just choose right now to just drop it. Just drop it. And there'll be an impulse to pick it back up, but just continue to drop it over and over again. Every time, whoop, down. Whoop, down. It really is just like that. This makes space. It makes a space, a gap in the normal momentum, the grinding along of our minds, especially during the day, with all the stuff we have to engage in. And little by little, you find that you can do that and maintain that space, and that you have an authority to do so. That you can decide what you're going to engage in and what you're not. And the heart and soul of non-dual self-inquiry is a disengagement that allows you to turn your attention to you, to the one who's experiencing all of this, to the one who's perceiving all of it, to the one who's feeling the pull to get involved with it. Without that disengagement, the self-inquiry becomes either an intellectual thing, which has some value, but will ultimately leave you quite unsatisfied, maybe even take you down some weird paths that you didn't really want to go on. Because when it's purely intellectual, it's not hitting the heart, and it really becomes just another way in which we tend to avoid the difficult stuff that might come up, the feelings and memories and things that still grab us. We get questions all the time about this. Is still coming up. I can see it, but it's still coming up. Well, it's just a practice of disengaging. Because even say, it's still coming up, what can I do about it? You're engaging with it. How about nothing? How about doing nothing about it? If it's something that really needs your attention, it'll be there when your attention goes back to it. But right now, it's just pulling attention away. And there's a whole cascade of thoughts that happens when you kind of bring your attention back and you want to put your attention on yourself, and something comes up. And it seems like it's really important, right? Yeah, we really have to resolve this. But just for a moment, consider the possibility that we may not have thought about. When some kind of feeling or thought or image comes to mind, what if there isn't a story behind it? What if it's just a thought coming up? And it's going to disappear just as quickly. Just what if for a moment? What if it has no history? What if it has no meaning? If you notice that something presents itself to our consciousness, be it a thought, an image, a feeling, a memory, something like that, and it immediately sets in motion a whole cascade of thoughts about that first thought. And it happens so fast, and we're so used to engaging with it on that level, that, well, I got to do something about this. This image keeps happening. I'm going to have to process it. I'm going to have to visualize. I'm going to have to withdraw and disagree, or disengage. Disagree too. Disagree is just another part of it. And instead, a thought came. Maybe all of that stuff that came later was just a story about it, and not actually true. And actually has nothing to do with it. Maybe there is no history to it. Just consider that for a moment. It sounds kind of strange to us, because we're so used to thinking, we got to take this stuff apart, and I got to inquire, and I got to look at it, and I got to dismantle the whole thing. Where did it come from? The childhood trauma, or the past life, or the ascended master sending something down? All these explanations about it. And what if it's just a thought? There's no connection to anything, and all the connections are just being made up on the spot. A great deal of the personal work that we do on ourselves is in fact that. It is the story that the mind has and is repeating about a particular event or image or something. And it isn't actually in the event itself. Just consider that. Next time something comes up, what if it has no meaning whatsoever? It's not connected to anything. It has no past. Now, most of us have never even considered that that was possible. We assumed it did. And, sometimes it might, but not all the time. So a great place to start is just, all right, there's a thought, fine, and let go. Notice how our mental habits are to turn it into, something, inner work, something I need to do. But first, let's just kind of cut it off before it even gets started, and just be with it. The thought is there. It will go very quickly, because thoughts are like that. Feelings, they hang around a little bit longer, which is, when I speak about allowing, so we'll just allow it to be there, and don't give it any meaning or any. Just do nothing with it. Just there it is, and your attention goes somewhere else. It's not even I'm allowing it, because that's a form of engagement. It's much, much more simple. You just there it is. And when you do that, when you bring your attention away from that and not engage with the whole deal, where does the attention go? To you. You turn the attention towards the one who to whom it has appeared. You could even ask the question, well, who's watching this appear? Well, that's me. Well, where am I? What am I? Who am I? That question can become very engaging. And in fact, that's way more important than whatever it is that appeared. And of course, anything that appears in our consciousness can only appear because we're already there to hear it, to see it, to feel it. It's always appearing in and to the consciousness that's there, whether there's any content or not. That's what deep sleep is at night. It's consciousness with no content. Just letting go every night of all the content, and your body just goes, oh God, thank you. Just off it goes. So don't assume anything. Just let yourself be present with what's there. We don't have to fight it, but make the question of who am I more important than what do I got to do, what has to happen. Believe me, it will actually take care of itself. There's really something to be done, something to, that has to be dug into a bit, something that's going to. It'll happen all by itself. You won't have to dig for it. It'll just kind of come out like a spring out of the ground. But the engaging with the things that happen to fix them in the light, the only thing that's going to come of that is that there'll be more things to engage with, more things to fix, more problems to solve, more stuff coming up. That's what happens. The only way that all of that just actually does cease for good is when we get so absorbed in the one who is experiencing it that this becomes secondary. It doesn't get anywhere near the amount of energy that it needs to sustain itself. And just like anything you pay attention to, the more you pay attention to it, the bigger it gets. More and more of what you actually are becomes apparent. And what you actually are is not a thing. It is not anything perceivable, like the body, like feelings and thoughts and sensations and events and all of that stuff. All of those are objects that are perceivable. But the one who's perceiving, you, isn't. Yet you know you are, don't you? Nobody could convince you otherwise. I could sit here very eloquently and persistently and with a great deal of passion and concern. I couldn't possibly convince you that you didn't exist. That simple sense of being, which looks like very small, very, yeah, it's here, so what? But I got all this. That tiny little thing, like a tiny little seed, you pay attention to it, and it will begin to grow to the point where it becomes boundless, because that's where it all is. That's where you are. That's where the totality of you are. That's where you'll find answer to all your questions and the solution to all the problems. Or the problems will just fall away. The questions will just fall away. In fact, I guarantee it'll happen. Because there are no problems for the self. All right. Let me just say hi to people. Hello, Ava. Hello, Ava. Hendrik. Nice. Roberto. Happy New Year to you in Madrid. David Yeager. Hello, my man. Miss Nay. Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday 2025. Miss Nay. Welcome. Hey, Robbie. Robbie, you changed your little picture up in the corner. David and Elaine. It was so good to see you guys. Dorothy. Robin Pepper. Hello, Robin. Wonderful to see you. Have you here. Sylvia. Hello from Spain. Not Madrid. Okay. Lots of Happy New Year's going on here. Hello. GP from Rosario. And CM. Hello, CM. Now that I know who you are, your secret's out. The love from Moldova. And there's Carl. Hello, Carl. Ida. Happy New Year, everyone. No light, but lots of love and joy from above the Arctic Circle. I didn't know you lived that far north. Wow. Thank you for this space and your brilliant presence, GP. Always truly wonderful to be here. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ida. Hello, Tomas in the Czech Republic. There's Carl. Hi, GP. Sometimes I feel like big chunks of my history story disappear through awareness, like the illusion disappears. What happens to all the cellular memories of these stories in the body? Whoa, what a great question. Yeah. Well, they disappear with all the rest of it, because the what we call the cellular memory, right, is just another part of the story. The truth is, if you really want to get down to it, what is the body? Let's really look for a second. Because we think of ourselves as a soul for some people, right? And when you get to the point where you're no longer thinking of yourself as the body, at least you know it's the case. Obviously, there's still thoughts there and things that as we work through it all. But in the awareness, the whole history, everything just disappears. Right? We think of ourselves experiencing awareness. Right? But what if you are the awareness? Just the awareness. Not awareness inside a body, like this world, and then this little speck of awareness inside the body. what if the body is actually just something else appearing in awareness, and it does not exist separately at all? Well, that means everything that we think about the body, every little piece part that we've noticed about it, the finger, the cells that make up the finger, the molecules that make up the cells, the atoms that make up the molecules, the quarks and subatomic particles that make up the atom, all the way down to the quantum field. What if all of those are simply appearing in awareness and don't exist as something out there that awareness is aware of, but in fact are simply arising out of awareness itself, which means it's just awareness knowing as opposed to awareness being. And what actually is awareness, and the rest just movements and consciousness, images playing on the screen. So what happens to all the memories of the stories, all the cellular memories? Well, the fact is, there never have been any. It's just this idea we have of memories stored in there, or the way our body happens to consistently behave. Now, I wouldn't say this to a group of people if I was talking who were already not at least somewhat familiar with this, and my words wouldn't sound so strange. If I was talking to a group of, energy healers or EFT people or psychologists, or even like combat veterans or people I've worked with, I wouldn't talk like this. I'd talk about it in terms of cellular memory and childhood traumas and wounds and experiences, and the stuff being in the body and the body's reaction to things. Because on that level, one can come to a very high degree of freedom from a lot of the stuff that oppresses us at that level. But it can only go so far, because it isn't really the whole picture. It's just kind of a step towards more emotional healing. But if you want to go beyond that, to find out, what is this awareness? Is it localized? Is it a little something, a little orb or something somewhere inside here, in the world that is other than it, that it is aware of? Or is awareness what we actually are? Now, remember, this approach of non-dual self-inquiry is not a teaching. It's not a belief. It's not, I'm not telling you this. I'm asking you to look. So look. Notice that there's absolutely nothing you experience that isn't in your awareness. Everything. So the idea, the name, the word, cellular memory, is something appearing in consciousness. And if you could actually see it, like a microscope or something, it would be an image in consciousness that we just happen to assume exists outside of the awareness that's perceiving. But what if it doesn't? What if it isn't? If it doesn't have a separate existence outside of awareness? Now, notice that it does is purely an assumption, and one that even by the best scientific means cannot be proven. Because it is not possible to step out of your own consciousness to see if what consciousness is aware of exists in it or out of it. It can't be done. So the assumption that it does exist separately is faith, hypothesis, an improvable position that we've just, it's got to be taken it as such. And everything else gets added on top of that. But what's your actual experience? Just look at it directly. What am I experiencing here? I'm not experiencing something out there. I'm experiencing everything here. That's it. That's real. Again, it's not an idea. Look for yourself. I don't experience that thing out there. I experience my experience is all right here. Awareness. And without awareness, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. We speculate. If there's no awareness, well, it still exists, right? Prove it. And just consider the other. It's not that I'm not looking at, therefore, it pops into view just because I happen to be walking in that direction, and it's not like a video game where it's all being, created as you go. But just a willingness to look at how my own experience happens, what I am actually experiencing without preconceived notions projected on it. And from that, you begin to conclude, well, I don't know anything outside of consciousness. Consciousness, from my direct experience, is all there is. That's what we experience. Nothing but consciousness. Because consciousness gone, no experience. They're completely, you can't have, and then consciousness is primary. Because whatever the experience is, and there's unlimited number of them, it's always consciousness to whom it appears. That makes that more important. More important to consider what that is, rather than, we'll figure that out someday, and just, plod along with all of the our assumptions about what's happening and their importance. So, it all disappears. It's all a story. It's all just, and again, just take it into yourself and check it. See if it's true. See if the history story that disappears exists anywhere other than in the belief in it, which is being dissolved by the awareness in which it appears, which knows it as a belief, not as the truth. Because the only truth there is the awareness itself. That's what is. And that's what you are. It's not what you have. It's not your awareness or my awareness. You're not someone who has it. You are it. This is the non-dual. Hope that was helpful to everyone, actually. G. Hey, G. Namaskar, GP. I was wondering if you could share any words on navigating romantic relationships in relation to conscious living. How should we develop, maintain, and also end them if we need to? It's a wonderful question. And I love doing my best to answer it, because it gets vastly misunderstood. It's hyped as the most wonderful thing ever, or it's criticized as terrible and indulgent. It's just one of those things that has so many mixed messages about it. And remember, we live in a very weird time right now, where all the things that used to guide us in these areas that are so important and so powerful a force in our lives, we used to have ways in which we would deal with them, in which we would be with them, in which we could have a context in which we would understand them. We don't have that anymore. Now, some of the context of that, some of the stories, the rules about it, and how it was viewed were very, very unhealthy. They were very nasty and didn't really serve the purpose of the people who were in the relationship. I mean, prior to the agricultural revolution and the like, and maybe even before that, when we hit the point of actual being cognitive of ourselves, being able to just ponder ourselves and think at all, it was all completely guided by nature, right? Humans did mate for life, but there was some choice involved. It wasn't, we're not the only critter on the planet that mates for life. Geese do, so do wolves. There are many that, I mean, that's it. And if their partner dies young, well, that's it. There's nothing else for the rest of their lives. Sounds very romantic, doesn't it? And it really does. And for us, we can see it that way. And nature, we kind of guide it. The attraction would be very natural. Would just kind of happen, right? And the whole community would be in support of it. And it didn't have a lot of the overhead in it. Matter of fact, it had very little of the overhead in it that we do today, that confuses the whole thing. And of course, we were mating, shortly after puberty. It wasn't like, going to 30 years old before you're with the person. And so it's a completely different world. And we wrap all sorts of other things up in it. So we expect romantic relationships to be something they're not. And then we get, and we're very immature in terms of actually self-conscious personal responsibility and community and relationship. So we project all sorts of things on it that are not there. We don't know how to glean from it what it can give us. We're very addicted to pleasure in this world. So when it starts getting bad, we want to get out of it quick, or we stay forever when it isn't going to get any better. So now that I've outlined to you the problem and how sticky it is, let me try to be a little bit more encouraging and point out some things that we can do, because we live in a time when we have to kind of map out the territory ourselves. But in order to do that, to really come to a place where there is a relationship that is not inhibiting and pushing us down, and yet has a strong commitment, so we can feel safe, and a willingness to plumb the depths, see how far it can go. Okay? Which means you have to stick around for a while. Right? And it's true, we make bad decisions, people that are completely incompatible and growing in completely different ways. And the problem is because we haven't really done enough of the inner work to see clearly between what is our projections and our illusions and just all of the programmed responses and crap that is unprocessed in us yet, the wounds and all of these things that have made all these behaviors in us. Without that, the wounded child will be choosing a mate. And you'll have two broken people trying to come together, looking for each other to be making themselves whole, and, it will be a match made in hell. Without that, the consistent effort to be clear within yourself, as clear as you possibly can, it isn't possible to sustain a relationship. It's not hard to start them. We all feel it, right? Cue the violins. he's the best thing that ever happened to me in the whole world. He just looks, it's wonder, it's wonderful, and everything looks incredible when you love each other, and it's got to be there. That's part of the process. Can the honeymoon period be maintained? Can you do it? Well, yeah, but it means that there has to be a growth going on, a commitment to freedom, that it can't be just about the two of you. It has to also be about your spiritual growth. The growth has to be enough in sync that somebody doesn't get too far ahead. And there's got to be a really a willingness to play the role of mom or dad, whom the other is inevitably going to project on you. All that, yeah. Yeah. And it's actually easier than it sounds if you are just willing to consistently be devoted to your own freedom, do the inquiry, and let go of how you think things are supposed to go. And you'll feel it. You'll feel if there's somebody that's actually in sync with you, right? Or if they're just, maybe starry-eyed, right? For now, and it isn't going to, it isn't going to last. Right? But it is. I can understand why a lot of spiritual traditions say, just don't do it. I can understand that. And I've talked to some monks from some of the Buddhist traditions where you don't even touch somebody of the opposite sex, or anybody who might be for any potential of physical attractiveness. You don't even touch them. You just keep everything yourself. Talk, of course, you can engage, but your life is completely separate from them. So there's an approach that some take. I don't think it's going to work very well here. This isn't a path that requires a vow of celibacy, but it does require a high degree of spiritual maturity and commitment. It does require that, because without that, you just won't have what it takes. You just won't have the clarity to be able to sustain something over a long period of time. Because the only way it can be sustained, because we are always transforming. We are transforming, and we want to. That's the whole point, right? We are trying to grow into the wholeness of who we are. And what you want is that as that's happening, you're just always falling in love with each other over and over and over again. You actually like the new person who's there, because the person you're initially with is gradually changing, and eventually it's going to be really noticeable. They're not going to be the same person. If you try to make them the same person, you can't do it, right? You need to start falling in love with that one. It's a constant re-upping of the vows. It should, the marriage licenses should have an expiration date, and it doesn't automatically renew. It's required to have a meeting. Are you still in? Yeah, I'm still in. Yep, I'm still in. Okay, let's do it. And another year will go by. I think that's the way it should do it. And actually, we should, like driver's licenses, we really should require a learner's permit first, and then they can get the license. Right? But you might as well face the fact that you're going to do it. because it's one of the most powerful drives in us, right? And if you recognize, yeah, it's almost certainly going to happen, right? We want it to happen, right? And just include that in your commitment to actually live the life of a conscious spiritual being, recognizing that it ain't always going to be easy. It's not a rose-strewn path. The karmic stuff from the past is going to bowl up. Is going to roll over you. This is the surrender to life as it is. And the devotion to the truth. God, I hope that helps. I so hope that helps. Thomas, where would I find enough leather to cover the entire surface of the earth? But with just the leather of my sandals, it's as if I've covered the whole world. Yes. And also, in life, it's much better to swim with dolphins than with sharks. Life itself is about the harmony of both of these analogies, right? Yeah. Well, the first one is actually kind of a paraphrase, or just a different way of saying what Ramana Maharshi, that was one of the examples he was using about self-inquiry. He said, if you're walking on stones and thorns and your feet hurt, you have two choices. One, cover the world in leather, or buy shoes. And it really points to the fact that it isn't about changing the world and conditions and circumstances, because for the most part, we cannot change. Even though some little ones in our lives we can't change. There's nothing you can do about it. So it's all of the effort that most everyone in the entire world is focusing is on fixing the conditions, changing the circumstance, changing the people. Vote this party out, vote this party in, but have this kind of experience, get rid of this kind of experience. When the cause of suffering has nothing to do with the events, it's my reaction to it. That's meant by putting on my own sandals. How do I become insulated from the reactions to everything that's happening without checking out, without suppressing, without excusing obvious evil and brutality and stupidity and the like? But it's going to be there. Right? How do I not suffer from it and be able to engage with it on a level of authority and inner-centeredness? Well, that's comes from the self-inquiry, looking at your own reactions to see where they're coming from, what they're about, and if they're true. Because it's my reactions that cause this. That's where the suffering is, not in the events. There's no such thing as an event that mandates suffering, because if there was, that event would cause everybody would experience the same degree of suffering from every event, if it existed in the event. But it doesn't. It is purely subjective. It is completely coming from you, which means I have complete authority over it. I have to exercise that. I have to kind of find the unconscious stuff that's going on there that is reacting to it. And I have to disidentify with the whole project. The ultimate of self-inquiry is that you find yourself, the real you, completely outside of the fray. And you're still feeling it, the fray and everything. You're not disconnected from life or humanity, but you're no longer, there's nothing in you anymore that's reacting to it, that's creating suffering. And at the root of that is our identification with somebody in the fray, duking it out. And we see that's not actually who you are. It's just a subtler movement in consciousness, the movement of identity. We step all the way out. And what's sitting there, very naturally, your actual nature is the love and wisdom that can walk through any circumstance with complete equanimity and bring light to it. Now the other one, right? It's, yes, in life it's much better to swim with dolphins than with sharks. However, you also see, yeah, I can swim with dolphins, and sharks no, because I'm lunch to sharks, and I'm not to dolphins. That's because you understand the nature of both, and you don't have an argument with the nature of both. As far as life is concerned, both sharks and dolphins are necessary. There's an incredible balance between them all, that kept in check is stable for millions of years, and in fact that's exactly what's happening. And we're upsetting that because we're so ignorant. We think we can control everything, and we're throwing things out of balance. But there's nothing wrong with sharks. They're actually quite beautiful and amazing, right? And harsh, but they are sharks. This is what they do. Right? This is a dolphin. This is what it does. Right? So you're wise enough to know not to swim with sharks or piranhas, or lay down in poison ivy or poison oak or something, because that's what it is. You don't expect it to be different. You're not offended that the shark is eating the seal. I was sitting outside once in a place that was, it was very nicely forested and the like, and there was a little squirrel playing there, and it all of a sudden took off, right? And I looked, and here was a hawk coming down, and that squirrel got under the bushes, and it was just a split second later, and he'd have been gone. The hawk landed, doing the hawk thing, looking around, right, waiting. Right? The squirrel darted into another place. The hawk missed him again, and then the hawk sat there for a while. The squirrel didn't come out again. Then he flew back up to this high place there and started looking around. And of course, I'm rooting for the squirrel, right? Come on, squirrel! Come. No, oh God! Oh, it was so close. My heart was in my throat. And as I thought about it, I said, but if all the squirrels win, then he dies. It's like, oh, this is what nature is. And fortunately, I didn't have to witness nature doing what nature does. And, some other times somebody would go, oh, hawk, oh my God. Oh, it's so beautiful. What a beautiful thing flying. Oh no, he killed the squirrel, right? And we cheer for him, right? The Seattle Seahawks, right? Yay, go team. This is the whole ambiguity of life. It's the human dilemma to solve. Everything is exactly what it is, and it needs to be that, and we accept it as it is. And that acceptance is what allows us to transcend and go beyond. That includes accepting our own humanness, our own the functioning of the human. We must accept it and completely harmonize with it in order to transcend it and go beyond it to the space that is beyond the human. Includes it, but is beyond it. Wonderful statements. Thanks for that, Tomas. Yeah. It's about the harmony. Yeah, the harmony of both of these. But the harmony is in you. Right? You can see the harmony in nature. There's a harmony in the eagle or the hawk and the squirrel. There is. Everything flows and stays in balance. It's what's actually allowed the earth to survive, to be what it is when it's a self-contained unit. There ain't nothing coming from out there, right? There's like our grocery stores. There's no trucks pulling up, putting new stuff there. It's just the most magnificent of things. Right? Hopefully, we'll appreciate that enough to keep it. Mystic Poet, hi my Sheik, and everyone here. Thank you for showing up. Pondering your answer about desire. My desire for money is my desire for safety and freedom. I applied it on my list of desires, and I could see what every desire meant for me. I asked to access the freedom, the connection, the love I'm longing for, but I still find that distance. I'm aware why I want these desires, and I don't deny them, and I want to see them, and this is important for me, however, the more important is accessing the abundance, love, peace, freedom I am. I want to know that. I want to know that I am that. That's a prayer. You will. That limitless abundance, freedom, love, connection. Good teachers say that I am that, and I am grateful for them, but I want to know it so far. I don't need affirmation. I cannot embody. Thanks for answering me. I love you. I love you too. Well, Faith, yeah. First off, I'm going to invite you to set aside the needing to see it, right, embodied in your life. And I say that because as long as we keep checking to see if it's embodied in our lives, we're going to assume that we don't get it. I must not know it yet, because if I did, it would be embodied. And you could see how that puts you in the spin cycle. There's no way out of that. And the reason there's no way out, because as long as the embodiment of it is more important than the true feeling, visceral understanding of it, it will always be there. Won't be there, because the focus is so much on its absence. Because the underlying belief there is that the reality of it is the embodiment, but the embodiment is not the reality of it. It is simply the temporary manifestation of it. The reality of it is your finding it inside, coming to know that you are that love, peace, and freedom, right, without there being any evidence for it whatsoever. Then the evidence can appear, and it won't harm you. If the evidence appears before that time, you will automatically gravitate towards, grab onto, and want to hold on to that, and lose touch with the source of it. It's like thinking that the water that you're drinking at the fountain is just right there, and it's nothing to do with the fountain. That you could cut yourself off from the fountain and you still have the water. You can't. It is coming from that. It is the very nature of it. Right? It's really an invitation to you to go deeply into the truth, right? Okay, I want to access abundance, love, peace, and freedom. You can. When you make love, peace, freedom more important than what it will bring you. This is... The truth has to be more important to us than what the truth gives us when we have it. I ask somebody, please don't, it's rhetorical. Right? Would you still love God if there was no heaven? If there wasn't some great reward at the end for your love of God, would you still want heaven? Or excuse me, would you, if there was no, would you still want God? If there was no hell, if there's no punishment awaiting you for all your for the bad things you've done, would you still love God? Would you do the bad things? We make God less important than heaven. And it becomes like, well, I'm going to love you because look at all the stuff you're going to give me. I'm going to love you because you take care of all these things for me and you give me your money and stuff. I mean, you can see how that's not love. It has nothing to do with love. You love someone for them. You love God because he, she is God. You love truth because it's the truth. You love love because it's love. Not because it does anything or brings anything to you. The story of Jacob in the Bible, the very first experience, because he's a conniver. He stole stuff, and stole his transformation is the whole story. But his first experience, he's out because he had to run away from his brother, who he stole a bunch of stuff from, namely his blessing, right? And tried to get the inheritance. And so he ran away because his brother was a little pissed about it. And he lays down and sleeps to have a sleep. He has this dream of angels descending and ascending into heaven, and ascending and descending, and the like. And when he wakes up, he knows he's had a vision of God. And he said, my God was in this place and I didn't know it. And immediately he starts going, God, you're here and I didn't even know it. If you will be with me and take care of me and give me all this stuff, you're going to be my God. I'm going to be your man. God, of course, who already has everything. What in the world does he or she getting the deal? Doesn't need anything. Do I want somebody to love me because of all the good things I do for them, or take care of them, or pay their bills or anything? Or do I want to be loved because me? They just love me as is. None of the extra stuff, but just me. That's what everybody wants. So love truth for truth's sake. Really. Let this be a genuinely religious, spiritual journey. That the content of your life doesn't matter. It is not important, nor is it a reflection on you. Because this isn't here, I don't get it. No, doesn't mean anything like that at all. But it is an invitation to go deeply into yourself, to find yourself, and to find the love that you love simply because it is love. To find the peace that is satisfying in and of itself. The freedom that is freedom from needing anything. Real freedom, no dependency whatsoever on anything external. Then you are truly free. Then, whatever shows up, whatever form it is, whether it matches what you'd like or not, you recognize that is the gift of God. That is the manifestation. You already have it. It's all around you right now. Right? At that point, you'll see that you've never, ever been without, and that it's always been there, always loving you. And now you get to love you. Love yourself without condition. You don't have to be anything other than this. Yeah. See where that takes you, Faith. Love you. I love you, my friend. Hey, hi, Allie. Hi, GP. Totally forgot about the stream. Better late than never. Well, I didn't post any notifications or anything until about 5 minutes before I normally start, since I put it off for 20 to kind of get it together. So, yeah. So, hey, Peter in Italy. Yeah, Miss Nay. Hey, GP. Firstly, thank you for being you. and being here for us. Thank you for being me. I didn't really have much choice. First, being here in this space, would you be able to give us some insight regarding trusting ourselves? One thing I've been navigating on my journey, the journey is discerning what is the mind ego and what is the higher self guide intuition. I often find myself questioning what I hear a lot. I would appreciate any advice and thanks in advance. Okay. Mary's popping in to say hello. Well, hello, Mary. Ms. Nay. Did I say that right? Ms. Nay. In order to trust yourself, you have to know yourself. The ego can't be trusted. The sense of identity we have that actually, just doing weird things, the sense of identity that we live that isn't us isn't trustworthy. It's going to make decisions based on its perception of the world. And oftentimes it's off, and what you're really feeling, what would really satisfy, which would really, satisfy, hit the mark, right? Would be isn't there because it's outside of what the sense of identity can possibly grasp. Right? So the question is how do I trust myself? It's how do I know myself? Right? How do I know that what's coming to me is in fact a genuine inspiration coming from my true being, or is just yet another pipe dream of the egoic mind. It's something you get used to. It's something you begin to discern the difference between, and you give yourself the freedom to check it out and see. Sometimes you can't really tell. Now, one thing I'll tell you that you can see for certain, you can know for certain, that if something comes to you and says, you really need to do this. If it says you really need to do this, or else, it's the ego. Guaranteed. That one's 100% certainty. The self, the truth, the love, because God is love, right? Never makes ultimatums, never says, this is it, it'll never happen again. This is your one chance forever. It never says that, because it wouldn't be true. Love is always there, never stops loving. And if you mess up one thing, it'll just give you something else, because it's inexhaustible, and all it wants is to bring you back home. So whenever it is, you better do it now or you're going to miss the opportunity. It's the ego. Right? So give yourself some freedom. Sometimes you can't tell, so take a step, see what it feels like. Take another step, see what it feels like. Don't let it leave you frozen. Right? Here, what do I do? Is it the right intuition? Should the right thing or not? Just try it out, see what happens, right? If it's really, really risky, right? Like I'm going to put, $10,000 in this, for this new invention somebody's made. You might make a mistake, and it's okay, because remember, sometimes the steps we take that are coming from intuition are not going to deliver to you what you hoped they would deliver, and you're going to say, I made a mistake. But what's really happening is you're being taken step by step to the place where it really wants to get you, which is not what we think it is. Everything that's coming from the true self, the reality of you, its goal, its motivation, its ultimate destination is your awakening. Awakening that you are the self, not just a guide. A guide's talking to you. That the guides talking to you are actually the truth of your own being. This is the convergence. You're not two. And since that's where it's getting you to, you may think, oh, this is great opportunity. It's going to yield all this kind of good stuff, and it doesn't. You think, I made a mistake. Who's that I that made the mistake? You can examine that. It's like, well, it's the same I, right? The same mind that says, oh, you really got to do it, then starts saying, God, that was stupid. Why'd you do that? You can get all twisted up in that. If you recognize that the hand of love is in absolutely everything, even the things you think are disastrous mistakes, what they're doing is bringing about an alchemical shift, and a chemical transformation inside of you that is preparing you to be open to receive the reality of your being, which does not look the way you think it does. And so there on one level, on the true level, there are no mistakes. It feels that way, it looks that way. Only when we compare what we've done to where we thought we were going, if you take that out of the equation, suddenly it gets a whole lot easier. Right? I may just really screw this whole thing up. And I can personally attest to the very long list of things that I screwed up according to my expectations of where they should have gone, and then how I handled it, right, when it went south. Long list. Then I realized what life was really all about, where it really wanted me to go. And I saw that those deprivations, those mistakes, those very costly blunders were an act of grace, an act of enormous love. And that it's the only way this dense head would get it, was to actually experience it viscerally on that level and watch it collapse, and watch the consequences of your own actions and what happens and the way you get hurt and the way you hurt others, and to really feel it, to not deny it. It turns our attention away from our personal, our very limited vision of what we want things to be like. We begin to realize that there's no water in that mirage. That even when I attain those things that I think are going to do it, are going to cut it, and they go south, or they're great for a moment and then they disappear, I begin to realize that where they just fall apart on me is the greatest gift there possibly is, because I come to see for real there's no water in that mirage. Not just somebody told me, yeah, I'm sure there is. You keep trying. Oh, there isn't in this one, but there's definitely water in the other one too. No, there's no water anywhere. There is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. This world, the whole material model, the whole idea of the separation and attainment and happiness and like, it is not here. And we hold on to little things and say, yeah, I'm really devoted, and I really do the inquiry, and yeah, if I could just, we kind of hold on to these little projections as to what we want life to be. And at some point, we really do just surrender the whole thing. Here it is. I'd really like this. I'd really like to have this in my life. Everybody's got this. Shouldn't I have this? And you go, here, you take it. The only thing I want is what you give me. And of course, the you you're talking to, it could sound like I'm talking to God, right? Or goddess, or whatever. And that's what it feels like for a while. And then little by little you begin to disappear. All those desires and everything that defined you just disappear. And the only thing left is the one that you've been praying to, that you've been giving it all to. That's all there is. The ego is gone and you merge with the one. You become, like the moth becomes the flame. So don't even worry about, do I'm trusting the guidance or not. You can just wrap you completely wrap you around the axle, and notice that it's actually the mind ego trying to figure out whether it's the ego or the guides. You can't figure it out. Don't even bother. Just open yourself up. Say, I don't know. Show me. And notice that just kind of this weight comes off, doesn't it? It's like, oh. Because the attempt to figure it out and be able to discern the difference, it's the mind. It's just wanting to have a different sense of identity, of the one who's really in tune to their intuition, but there's still a personal identity there that sees itself as separate, which is the real illusion we want to break down. So just let it all go. Just like I did at the beginning, a little exercise I just kind of threw in the beginning. Just set it aside. I don't know. Okay. Set it aside. Don't ruminate. Nothing. Just, what if I don't need to know? What if I don't need to know? What if I can just set the whole thing down? Take the question, just put it over the side. Right? If it needs to be answered, it'll still be there. Right? Just put it in a box, put a label on it, set it over the side. Just let it go. And notice you're still here. I'm just here. And things are going to happen. I will respond because just the way it is, and I don't need to know anything. Just notice how that feels. This is the peace of God. Oh, lovely. Lovely. Thank you. Was that helpful, Miss May? Was that helpful? Joseph H., what do you make of sociopaths? Not quite sure where to go with this, Joseph, what you really need to know about that. But in the range of the character that the human mind is capable of experiencing and being, you have those that are very altruistic and giving and open and empathetic, sensitive to the needs of others and respectful of the needs of others. There are those that lose themselves in giving to others all the time because they're not really in touch with themselves. And then there are those that are completely cut off and cannot feel the effect that their actions would have on somebody else. And because of that, they don't care. They're only interested in themselves. So the rules of society, they don't apply to them. They don't care. I know that personally because I had a cousin who was that. He had no conscience. They actually caught him trying to poke my eyes out. Actually, his thumb's in there. He wanted to poke my eyes out. And now he's a young kid. Right? He was 6 years older than I, and I was the new baby getting the attention. So he wanted to hurt me. He showed up once when I was a teenager on a motorcycle he had stolen in the middle of the night and dragged me out, and I went with him because I was 15 or something. I didn't know what I was doing. And but yeah, the stories he told me would stand your hair on end. And he ended up at a choice either go to jail or go into the army. He went into the army, and he was so good at killing that that after a couple of tours in Vietnam and being wounded all the time, he was so good at it and liked it so much that they put him in charge of training other people. It says a lot about our military. So, like sharks, don't swim with them. Recognize them when you see them. We have a lot of them in government. They have no empathy whatsoever for anybody. See a lot of them in business, a lot of them with billions of dollars completely disconnected. They're sociopaths, some even psychopaths, some even beyond that. Right? So I'm not really sure what you need from asking that question. But ultimately, we have to come to see that these are distortions of the human mind that happen. They can happen to anybody. They are a result of the various causes and conditions that people experience, that you can be raised to be empathetic and compassionate and loving, and then eventually find your way to choosing that because it's just the right way. It's just the intelligent and obviously best way to live. Or we could all have gotten programmed to the degree that we become sociopathic. And all of us have done things in our lives that hurt somebody else but benefited us. At least hope was going to benefit us. We've all done it. So let's not pretend we've all been good all the time. That doesn't make you a sociopath, but you realize that it's all a matter of degree. How far does that go? Some people don't care who they hurt as long as they get what they want. Some others, though, you do that and you actually feel remorse. And that remorse is wisdom. That remorse is what shows you these are the real consequences of your actions. And you really have to be cut off from love, from your heart, to do that. You have to think somehow I'm going to be benefited by it, and then you're grateful for the remorse. You're grateful for having it rubbed in your face. This is how we actually become wise. When we really see the consequences of our own actions, then there's no denying that you don't need a court of law to accuse you. You do a great job doing it on yourself. So it's just another extreme that our egos go to. Right? When it becomes all about the ego, it is a very corrupt and dark and very difficult to reach a state of mind. And to see that should remind us that there by the grace go I, by the grace of God go I. That when we are invited to do something that really benefits us at the expense of somebody else, that we really look at it closely. If so, then even the sociopath has served a higher purpose. Sylvia, regarding sharks, I find it difficult to accept that life is a cycle, as in the strong ones kill the weaker, and that is part of life and can even be represented as beautiful in movies. Yeah, me too. In fact, the very fact that we can't accept it, that it seems to make no sense, and yet there it is right in front of us. Life eats life. We do it. I do it. You do it. Even if you don't eat meat, we have to eat things that have been alive. This body must have life energy from other living things. Now, we can minimize that, right, with, just eating plants and the like, right? But there are some animals that don't. They can't eat plants. They simply cannot do it. In fact, humans were omnivores. It was mostly plants in our diet, but there was also meat as well. And that, that's the way it evolved. Remember, all of this is going on. This is just the functioning of nature. So it's not wrong or right. It's simply the way nature has functioned. Somewhere along the line, the beauty and the benefit of human beings is we became aware of it and could actually look at it, look at the cycle, and had to participate in it because that was life. But we also came to the point where we go, why does it have to be this way? I believe that the spiritual quest, the religious sentiment, and began there, just considering the incredible, the just like you said, I find it difficult to accept. Yeah, and yet there it is. Just the earliest things that have been discovered that show cognitive activity in us, in humans, are the bear caves in somewhere, I can't remember where now, and that they would hunt bears for food, not to extinction or anything like that. It wasn't mass, and obviously that was a big deal to do, and it took a lot of energy, so it wasn't like something was happening all the time. But they recognized something in that, and they ritualized it in the way that they buried, or they didn't bury, or just throw to the side. They actually had caves in which they arranged the bones of the bear, and they actually took the femur, a leg bone, and put it into the bear's mouth, which appears to have symbolized to them life eating life. And it's out of the recognition of that and the sacredness of it that you see the Native American and other Aboriginal tribes, these rituals that would go on because they had to do that. So they have the buffalo dance, and asking, we sit down to grace at dinner and we thank God for the food. The Native Americans thanked the animal. They recognized what they were doing. Now this is amazing. They recognize that this is how it works, and it is beautiful, and it's also horrifying, and yet here it is. I think the whole point of our human lives is to face the incredible ambiguity of it, and we find ourselves right in the middle of it, with this vision beyond it, and yet our everyday life completely embroiled in it. There's no answer to it. You can't just say right, wrong, or any. Living with the answerless state is what brings us to the place where it makes sense. It's what kind of makes the whole thing happen. It's like in Buddhism, they have the precepts. Do no harm. A lot of them are equivalent to like the Ten Commandments. They're just softer and more trying to get you engaged in it rather than be obedient. But it's like do no harm. Now the thing about those precepts, all of them, is that there's absolutely no way you can get through life by doing no harm. You cannot possibly succeed at it. So that's the first thing, and that's important, right? Because now I've got to do something that I can't actually do. It's not possible for me to do no harm whatsoever and live. And yet, I absolutely agree. What a better way to live than to do no harm. The whole fact that we cannot do it is what brings us to finally surrender our egos and our minds and trying to figure it out. And also brings an end to us just trying to suppress it or say, it's okay, it doesn't really matter. It's unimportant, or so diminishing the character of the critters that gives us like this, the horror of animal agriculture, right? Or trying, like the Jain, right, who never wear clothes, won't cut their hair, don't bathe, walk very slowly with their head always down, so they don't step on an ant. They only eat things like, leaves that have fallen from things that are already dead, right? And this is an actual group of religious people trying to live the do no harm notion that was there before Buddhism, right? And so you could see the very fact that we want to, and we aspire to something we cannot actually ever know, does something inside of us. It does something deeply inside of us. And that's what it's supposed to do. This is what's important for that to happen. Not because humans are superior, but because we are the same as them, as all the rest of the critters. So all of the critters in us are contemplating themselves. And so to even ask that question, and to even put it the way you do, to really recognize that, but don't take a side. I find it difficult. Yeah, I do too. I don't want to accept it. Right? But you can't deny it. Right? So there's no point you're going to find in the mind where this makes any sense whatsoever. It is the koan of life. It's to be accepted and then take it as an invitation to look beyond, because something inside us knows there's a reconciliation of this somewhere. And that's the spiritual quest. Does that help, Sylvia? Everybody. Right? Yeah, okay. Wow. Yeah, such a potent one. Such a potent one. Satnam. Same thing to you. Same to you, Ching. John Lucas. Best advice on marriage I've never heard before. Well, thank you, John. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not an expert. I've done it. I'm an expert only because I've done it so badly. And you kind of have to just be such a huge fuck up that you finally get it. You finally begin to realize what you're doing, your own blindness, and a willingness to face your blindness and its consequences, and then transcend it. Transcendence does not let you off the hook. It's going to rub your nose in it for a bit, so you really get it. You really absorb it in every last bit of it. Then it will take you beyond. Savvy, you are speaking of unconditional love, which is true love, yet so many don't experience it. Yeah. Well, but I'm not speaking of it, Ali, as an absolute or as a abstraction. Yes, you will mess it up big time. You won't do it. You'll get triggered. You'll go off. All that stuff will be there. The question is there enough there for you, knowing full well that you're going to do it, that you can come back into it, right? Together, and look at it. Oftentimes you can't, right? But especially if both get triggered and off you go. Yeah, it can be very hard to come back and say, I really went off, right? And then they may still be off, right? And wanting to vent, and they can. They're allowed to, and you let them. No relationship can survive without consciousness. Otherwise, It's two wounded beings just projecting on each other and beating each other up, running, and nothing's ever been learned. Consciousness has to enter in somehow. It has to do it. And yes, consciousness emerges from unconditional love into a setting which is very conditional. We don't get married or deeply involved with anybody because we're meeting all their needs and they're not meeting ours. That does not exist. This is the whole, it's the same as I was talking with Sylvia, the whole ambiguity of the whole thing. There's no such thing in human life as unconditional love. There's always going to be this going back and forth. Yet, at the root of it is unconditional love that we're reaching for. Which means, how do I completely accept this person as they are, and me as they are, and what this is, as it is, what can I bring consciousness to it? If you can, it will elevate. And will meet everybody's needs. And so the unconditional love doesn't exclude the meeting of one's needs, the conditions under which a relationship exists at all. Because we get into the relationship because it meets our needs, whether it be just for sex or just for companionship or for some security. All of that's part of it, isn't it? Well, it needs to be. We're going to be interdependent, Sometimes she may make more money. Sometimes he may make more money, and are more able to support each other. It can ebb and flow like that, and this is the flow of needs and meeting each other's needs. But if we really we desire with all our hearts to meet their needs, if we can, if I'm really what's needed, and they really want to meet your needs, right, without sacrificing their own, you've got as close to unconditional love as you can get in a human condition like that. I would say it is unconditional love appearing within a very conditional framework. It's the timeless appearing within the field of time. And this is what it all is. This is what it all is. All of this is the absolute perfection appearing within the apparent imperfection. All of it. If we can accept that, we can see that it's not two. The conditional and the unconditional are not two. The unconditional, the spiritual, the absolute is not some abstraction out there that we're trying to get to. It's right here. This is what the absolute perfection looks like when it appears as a human being. Yeah, marks on his face, red blotches, and old, wrinkles. This is how the infinite beauty and perfection appears. You go, huh? I thought it was, yeah, we did, didn't we? But it's this. Unconditional love manifests as conditional love. But the heartfelt negotiating of the territory so everybody's needs get met. That's just unconditional. Beyond that, there isn't anything beyond that. We just have this totally idealized sense of what unconditional love is, and it becomes, oh God, it's this pure. No, it's not. It's this right here. If I can, best I can, to the degree that I can, accept you as you are, just like you are. That's unconditional love. What else does it need to be? Really, what else does it need to be? What would be beyond that? Nothing. It's the whole point. The whole point. You are the self. It's not some abstract, you know, heavenly being of light. It's you, this dumb, incompetent, tripping human being. Yes, that is the self. How it appears. We just living this idea that we're not, which is also the self, experiencing itself, viscerating, unconditional love, experiencing itself in the setting that is conditional. Without the opposites, there's no manifestation. Right? And yet, it is perfect. Wow. Oh God, I want to drive this home. You're it. You're it. Tomas, thank you. Yes, there's so many sharks around. Yeah, almost no dolphins. Yeah. Well, be the dolphin. What else can you do? Right? Yeah. There's nothing we can do about the quantity of sharks, other than be the dolphin. Yeah. Sometimes it can seem quite overwhelming, but since you see it, right, it's yours to do something with. So be the dolphin. Be the one who attempts to be understanding, not lopsided. Just put your heart into it. It's all anybody can ask. Sylvia says, the brain is wired to survive, and maybe that is why it's difficult to avoid wanting results and just loving God for no reason. But maybe trying is enough. Trying is enough. Yes, it is. What else? You know, in martial arts, and I've done a little bit. I never got to any level, but from good friends of mine I know who are martial arts. You go through promotions. You know, start as the white belt and the brown belt. Depending on the art, they have different gradations and things like that. And at your promotion to the next belt, you have to go through a bit of a trial. You have to actually fight people with your art. And the interesting about it is it's designed in such a way so that if you win or lose, you got to fight somebody else, right? It just keeps coming and coming and coming until you are completely exhausted and you cannot fight anymore. That doesn't seem like it makes any sense, but you win it by winning. But the point isn't to win. The point of it is to get through it. It's really a test of the spirit, to just keep going until the body cannot go any further, but you want to keep going. And this is the same thing. You're going to find all the ambiguity. It's not an ideal state. It's not going to be something you can do. I'm just going to love God for no reason. And you're going to find all the places that you love God for a very good reason. Right? You're going to say, and then you're going to beat yourself up about it. But if you actually accept the ambivalence of it and say, oh yeah, there it is. So there's this part, the sense of identity, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. And to a certain extent, living in the world, I can't just meet with this person and do something with them for no reason, nor can I just here, surrender it all to them, right? I don't need, here, you take it, and because your needs are going to be there too. You see, we need to engage in life moment by moment, striving for the highest place we can get that we can see, and that this circumstance is capable of even receiving. Sometimes the circumstances, I'll talk to some people who are just so dark, there's nothing I could possibly say that would penetrate it, even though I can't stop looking for the entry point. Then there's other places that I can speak to folks, and I can get to a certain level, right? Nothing transcendent, but, just a sense of getting some kind of degree of a sense of separation, seeing what's their conditioning, right? To not be identified with our conditions that not be, which helps us to not be overwhelmed by our emotions or our thoughts and our beliefs. And there's a lot of freedom there. I could speak at that level. And then, I have the self-inquiry Sangha where it's boom. We will drop down to emotional healing when we need to, but otherwise we are just really completely focused on the inquiry. Right? So, yeah, trying isn't just enough. It's basically all you can do, because what really matters is your sincerity, your earnestness, the willingness to say, this is more important than that, right? I don't know how to do this. I'm just going to be there as best I can. But my heart is yearning to get to that point where I can truly love God. That I really do love God. And of course, the weird thing is, was it John who said, how anyone who says they love God and does not love their fellow man does not love God. So it's right there, loving God. I mean, because God and how God appears are one. So when you're kind and loving and understanding to the one, to the cashier at the checkout counter, you're loving God. You're being God, loving God. Right? Heard a wonderful story about a woman who oversaw this. She saw this. She was actually in the line at a grocery store, and the cashier was there doing her thing. And while she was checking this one lady out, this other lady came in with a baby, right? A lady with the baby was there in the line. She had the cart. It was her turn, and the woman who's checking her out just was playing with the baby, just together having so much fun with the baby, the point where it actually was delaying the line. The lady behind was getting very, very angry. Very, very angry about it. And after a while, she stopped playing with the baby, and the woman and the child went off. And this woman got it, and she just ripped her a new one. She was just all over her, like nothing. And and after she vented and like taking her groceries and stormed out. This woman who told the story was behind her, and she came up and she said, wow, that was yeah, forget about her. She's obviously an asshole, right? So it's okay. And then the cashier told her the story. She's a working mother. That was her daughter. And the only time she could see her during the day is when this woman would come in with her, and she'd get to spend a couple minutes with her while she was cashiering. Now, the woman who cussed her out, right? I wish you would have heard that story. Right? I mean, you just don't know, right? But the woman who didn't do that, who just forgave it, let it pass, and brought her love after she just got such a rash of shit, saw the whole picture. It's like, wow. Wow. Yeah. Please take your time. I'll wait. But that's not. Give more time. Give him more time. Yeah. Nothing I'm doing is that important. Wow. Yeah. So, yeah, try, try, try. Knowing you're going to fail, which allows you the opportunity to love yourself. I said, it wasn't Rumi. I don't, although he was aware of Jesus. But it was just a quote I saw. It was a poem that said that I'd heard, love your enemies. And so I did. And I loved myself. Joseph X says, facts. Man, a few words. So, yeah, that was about the sociopath thing. So, savvy. I no longer allow anything but unconditional love into my life now. Needless to say, I have very few people in my life. Sad, but true. Yeah. Well, it's not really unconditional. Ali, we can talk about this more on Wednesday, because she's in my self-inquiry sangha, which I encourage all of you to join. It's cheap and it's regular, and I get to actually see you, and we can go a little bit more in depth than I can here. If you're interested, just let me know. What you're really looking for are folks who can love you as you are, and that's predominant. Because if that's predominant, the conditions are there become minor. They become something, part of how you work in a relationship to be unconditional, to really accept all of it as it is, and go beyond. So, yeah, because you say, I don't accept anything except unconditional love, is a condition. Isn't it? You can't get out of this. Nope. It's either this or nothing at all. That's a condition. It's a pretty strong one. Yeah. I can hear you laughing. Let's see. Mystic poet. Faith. I'm trying it sincerely, but I ask for help. Sign to know I'm on the right way. Boy, all sorts of things popped up here. Hold on a second. Where'd you go, Faith? There you are. To know I'm on the right way out. Love not good and the good right things. Yes, you are. Yeah. Okay. I'm giving you the sign. Right. I can feel it. Right. I've been watching you for a few years now. Right. And I know you're sincere, and you're on the right path. Right? You don't have to measure it by any other standard other than the sincerity of your desire to be on the right path. And I can confirm it for you. I can vouch for you that you are. I don't expect you to be perfect. I don't look for perfection, only earnestness. Because earnestness will find its way through. Real devotion, real faith. What's your name, really? Yeah. So, yeah. Does that put you at ease, love? No? Is that? Marty says, with a great satsang, G. Thanks. You're very welcome. Miss Nay, wow, very helpful. Oh, where'd you go? And yes, you pronounced it correctly. I'm aware of the perceived need. Sometimes I feel like I do, to know something or anything. I guess the mind is always trying to figure everything. Yeah, that's what it does. Right? And we trained it to do that. It's not actually its nature. That's not what it's there for. But because we got disconnected from our souls. We got disconnected from our bodies. We went into our heads and we think we can figure everything out. And look around. That's what the world thinks. It's always about, well, we'll figure out some kind of solution to that, right? And we've done a lot of really great stuff. Going to make us think we can do anything, right? It's just not true. I'm noticing that I felt the sense of freedom recently, knowing that we don't need anything to know anything because we are everything. Yes. But don't make that too much about the mind. I am everything. Just because whatever it is that got in, that is really sunk in, that you really, really understand and not just know, is what gives that sense of freedom. The knowing won't. So just, right, I get it. Yes. All that happens in here, in this knowing, is it points you in the right direction that brings you to the real knowing. I know it because I am it. But that's just, don't leave it as a concept, right? The knowing is there, right? And it's okay for it to be like something else there, right? Don't try to force this. It says the ego death is a beautiful journey. No matter how the resistance or uncomfortability feels, perhaps these are just senses and not real. Well, that is correct. That is correct. It is just a sense, right? As a sense, it is a real experience. Right? When I start overlaying it with this sense means this, none of that is real. All of that is just imaginary. Right? Now, if I believe that, I will have a real experience of it and think somehow that my experience is confirming the belief, but in fact it's just causing it. It's just shaping perception. So that's what we experience. And we just notice that the mind, the way it's functioning, is trying to figure things out and feels afraid that it's not going to get the right answer or it's going to do the wrong thing. And, ego isn't this horrible word, right? Even the term ego death, it doesn't die, right? First it would have to live. First it would have to have an actual conscious existence in order to die. It can't die. It's like a cartoon character. Like Kenny on South Park, right? Who died every episode. they don't exist. Bugs Bunny can't die because he never existed in the first place. He's just an image, a wonderful story, but nothing substance to it. So the ego's not this thing that we got to get rid of. It's just yet another idea, yet another thought. And the sense of myself as a person projected onto the experience, which is innocent, right, is what we call the ego, right? Or and that's all there is to it. It is just the sense of I projected outward. So the I now becomes I am this, I am that, rather than just I am. And then even beyond I am, to the pure emptiness of the absolute. Truth is, you're the only thing that's real. Everything else is experienced. It is real in that it is an experience and it is a manifestation of what is, but when you think of real being, it is, which means it exists independent of everything else. It's just is itself. It doesn't need to be believed to exist. Nothing. It has no preconditions for anything. It is what is, period. Always has been, always will be. That is you. You're the only thing that is. And Sylvia, thank you for your great answer. Oh, you're welcome, Sylvia. Jay, thank you for your clarification on unconditional love, G. Trying to manifest that outwardly would be a disaster. You're right. It would just absolutely, oh man, just try. Go ahead, try. And just take note of exactly how big the mess is that you make. Savvy says, yes, TB, that's exactly what I was getting. I only accept people in my life, but we accept each other as we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yes. And you may not find a lot of people on that particular path, and that's quite okay. The good news is there's a whole bunch of them right here, right now, and there's a whole bunch in the Sangha, and there's a whole bunch of, yeah. There's enough. Now, how many unconditional friends do you need? But if you can do that with a romantic partner, it's heavenly. Yeah. Knowing full well you're both bozos. Jay said, a great teacher for that is a cat. Independent little mofos, but just can't keep a grudge against them because, like every animal, so much of unconditional love just emanating. Yeah. Cats. Eckhart Tolle, I heard him say that in my life I've lived with many Zen masters, all of them cats. Yeah, they're just magic little creatures. They truly are. I guess that's why I like animals more than most people. There are exceptions. Well, I'm glad. Oh, hello, light body. Hello, GP. What aspect of ourself observes the mind? Any insight would be helpful. Well, that's the kind of stuff we dive into in my self-inquiry Sangha. My little way of trying to promote that, because that's exactly what it is. That is the question, isn't it? What aspect of ourself observes the mind? Well, let's play with it. Let's just all look together right now, all right? Just look. We're talking about the mind. Yeah. We all know what we're talking about. So that means that the mind is something perceivable. It's an object that can be perceived, right? It's sitting right there. You can observe it. So this idea now that's an aspect that is observing. Can you actually observe that? Or is that just a thought that says, well, there must be some aspect observing? But looking directly, what's observing the mind? Put in aspects, and that's just look, what's here? What's observing the mind? What is it that sees the mind? I mean, who's telling me right now about the mind that's being observed? You are. Not an aspect of you. You. Some aspect of you looking at the screen and listening to me? Or is it you? We miss the obvious. It's you. You're the one who observes. You're the one who feels. You're the one who sees things coming. You're the one who knows the mind, the body, the intellect, the emotions. You're seeing them all. You're seeing it all. Some aspect out there somewhere. If there was an aspect of the self you could notice observing, you'd be observing it, wouldn't you? So there is no aspect that can observe, because it would just be appearing as yet another object that you yourself are observing. You're the observer. Now, who are you? The one who observes it all. Who are you? That's the question. We keep looking for this other thing when the one looking is like right here. It is right here. That's why we don't see it. Well, no, it's just me. I'm looking for the self I'm looking for God, right? Turn around. What you're looking for is where you are looking from. It's you. Yeah, the you cannot see. You cannot observe yourself. You can't do it. Because you're the one doing the observing. You're not an object in the mind. You are the observer of the thing we call the mind. If I'm the one observing the mind, does that mean I am the observation itself? Fatima, I just jumped down there and saw that because Fatima was like picking up on that at the same time. So good, 2 birds by 1 stone. No, that's a concept. That's a non-dual idea. I am the observation itself. Just set all of that aside and just look at what's actually here. Right? If I am observing the mind, does that mean I am? Just stop right there. One thing I could say absolutely assuredly, right? I am. Does that mean I am? Yes. Now that's obvious, right? I am. Everything after that is the mind trying to make an object that you can look at. The observation itself. Even the observing is being observed, isn't it? Even the observed is known. It's very subtle. It's a very, very subtle energy or vibration, or whatever you want to call it, movement in consciousness. But you're perceiving it, isn't it? Aren't you? Because the perceiver, it cannot be perceived. It's not an object that can be perceived. So I use the word perceiver because that's all we've got. And somebody will say, well, I'm not the observer. I am the observing, right? And the mind just takes that. It's just nonsense. It just spins off in some kind of non-dual cul-de-sac. Right? Look at what's here. Right? I'm observing. The observing is happening. And I'm observing it. Now, when you ask, then who am I? The mind will come, I'm the observation itself. It's a concept. Throw it out. Right? Nothing, the mind comes up. No thought, no idea, no image. Nothing can possibly be you because you're looking at it. You must be the one looking. Self-evident. It's in theory, not a belief. No theology here. Right? I'm looking at it. So now just sit there with that and the not knowing, just who am I? Rejecting every picture, idea that the mind presents, that anything presents. Forgetting about the mind present or not. Anything that comes into your field of perceiving, including the perceiving itself, cannot be it. Stripping down to absolutely empty, so you do not know who you are, right? And that's who you are. It's as direct as I can get it. I've got you right in front of the door, right? Don't look anywhere else. There's nothing written on the door. How's this landing here, Fatima? And I didn't see it. Oh, Light Body, right? Light Body, 1987. We're so used to looking for something, and the process of letting that go is actually it is the whole thing, and it's fun actually. There it is again. There it is again. I've been trying to, I have been trying, and you already know you. It's just this habit we have of trying to make some kind of tangible thing I can hold on to that is me. But the I that you actually are, You know it perfectly well. It's already realized. No, it's... mm. All right, anyway, getting to the end here. Sure. Savvy, my dog has taught me. Yes. Oh, dogs are pure love. Pure love. Oh, dear. A name I can't. Brett? Brett? No idea how to pronounce that. Brett. Oh. Wow. When walking the path, is it normal for things you've repressed or fears you haven't faced to bubble up and force you to face them and deal with them in order to progress? Damn straight. I will attest to that. I will attest to that. Yes. The transcendent, we will transcend. We can transcend all of it, because it is all a dream. But you can't just think it's all a dream and none of this matters. The realization of it brings you to a place that's free of suffering. But the karmic wheel will keep going until it has run out of fuel. The match keeps burning until there's nothing left for it to burn. The karmic wheel keeps turning. Every attempt we make to get off of the wheel or do anything to it keeps it turning. When we finally recognize who you actually are, the one who cannot be seen, but is seeing the wheel, the karma, the life, everything, the entire human condition, and completely accepting of it, steps outside. This is the removal of the energy from the karmic wheel. And then the wheel will just keep going until, and slowing down, and eventually stop. There's no get out of karma free card. But there is the disidentification, because it's identification with the person, the finite sense of self, that is creating the karmic wheel. My identification with the self and its loves and its hates and its ambitions and its desires and its attempt to be perfect and its attempt to attain enlightenment, or even if it's a sociopath, it doesn't matter what it is, it's just feeding the wheel of life and death, of birth and death. But when we realize that identity is simply a movement in consciousness that we have identified with and believed is myself, right? And even the one who believed it was themselves is also in that picture. You've stepped into this place of the pure loving witness, and even the one who witnesses the loving witness and can say loving witness. And then no more karma is being created. The sufferer of karma doesn't exist anymore. And now karma just runs itself out without suffering. As Nisargadatta put it so beautifully, I leave my human life to fulfill its destiny. I remain as I am. Is that amazing? I think I understand, but then it can't probably be properly put into words, can it? No. Another aspect of the conditional, unconditional love, the ambiguity of human life, it cannot be put into words. And so here I am every day putting it into words. A job I absolutely will fail at. I cannot possibly do it right. And yet, every day, this is what I do. Just say, well, man, this little metaphor, what am I doing, right? Love, right? I'm just looking for whatever I can do to point you towards you. Right? So it's love, and this is completely, clumsy, and the tools we have are clumsy, but we use them. That's what we got, right? So okay, my guitar doesn't have all the strings, so I'll use the 3 that I have, right, to see if I can make some music. That's what we do, right? We're trying to, the light of perfection shining through the apparent imperfection, and we find out that's what perfection actually is. The perfect attempt, loving attempt to do what can't be done. Gerald says, I love animals can't lie. They exist in the now, right? Yeah. As Mark Twain once said, humans are the only animals that blush and the only ones that need to. Great insight. John said you are a great teacher. Oh, well, thank you. Wow. Is there a John here? Yeah. Thank him too. Well, thank you very much. Light Body, 1987. Is that your birthday? 1987? A youngster. Wow. My oldest just turned 50. Yeah, how about that? My youngest is 48. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Jay, we'll not be able to completely negate lying from our life because there's definitely individuals out there. Yeah. Who doesn't get through life without telling a lie or fudging a little bit on the taxes and stuff. It isn't a tool for life. No. The whole point is that you're not supposed to win. You're just supposed to recognize you can't win and then strive for love. Knowing you can never get there, right? Because that's how you stay away from arrogance. I made it. Yeah, I made it. That's right. I'm bad. Yeah. It's just kind of part of the deal to make sure that when you start getting a little bit, full of yourself, that boiling hot soup falls right into your lap. I know. I have the scars to show for it. Oh, geez. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Light Buddy. Thank you, Jay and Fatima and Daryl and Ava and Dave and Elaine and Miss Nay and Sylvia and just everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's just so gratifying for me to see beings like you taking to this path. Because as you can see, it's not stilted. It's not empty. It's not, I'm going to be non-dual. Nothing's going to matter. I'm the self, and everything is really dry and boring, and there are no comedians in heaven. It's bullshit. I mean, it's this. This is it, right? Your everyday human life, the ordinary human being, is the Buddha. The Buddha said that, right? So yes, it's here to be loved and enjoyed and tasted, just not get attached to, because it's coming and going. It's a manifestation. It's not the thing. The thing is changeless. The manifestation is always changing. All right. On that note, thank you all. I love you all so much. It's so wonderful. There's Isabel. Hello. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Jacqueline. Love to you. Oh, looking forward to talking to you Tuesday. Yes. Oh, right. Yeah, I'm glad. You do amazing. Oh, you're so welcome. Ravio, thank you. Oh, wow. Well, thank you all, guys. And I will see you all very soon. Very soon. Bye-bye.